talking to Geneva.
Your Excellencies, Honourable Minister Birmingham from Australia, Honourable Minister Manele from the Solomon Islands, and Honourable Minister Waipulu from Tonga, and representatives, thank you, and Bulavanaka to all of you. I know for some of you it's a very different hour of the day, but please bear with us whilst we actually get this done. Your Excellencies and Honourable Ministers, Secretary General of the Forum Secretariat, senior trade officials, Bulavanaka, as I said, and good morning to all of you, and a very warm welcome to all of you joining us in this virtual special forum, WTO Trade Ministers Roundtable. I wish to register my appreciation for your participation in today's special virtual forum, WTO Trade Ministers Roundtable. It seems like we'll be doing more meetings virtually now, since this has become the new norm for all of us. And I acknowledge the Secretariat for facilitating and coordinating this roundtable. And I believe this is the first time that the Forum WTO members are coming together to discuss the WTO Director General selection process. Never before have Pacific WTO member states actively participated in scrutinizing the candidates for the WTO DG selection position. Today's roundtable discussions, ladies and gentlemen, is a testimony of our growing commitment towards the multilateral trading system. And this is why it is important to put into perspective the way forward for a multilateral trading system and where the Pacific actually fits into this equation. Honourable Ministers, Excellencies, the COVID-19 pandemic has severely affected all economies, and the Pacific has not been immune to this, especially the small island developing states of the region. The economic impacts include our respective tourism sectors, coming to a grinding halt, and the flow of goods and services in the global value chains being critically disrupted. The initial instinctive reaction to the COVID-19 crisis by most countries was to look inward and act alone. And as a result, borders have closed and supply chains have been affected, and regional economic activity has fallen. This has created considerable global uncertainty, and as a result, world merchandise trade is forecasted to contract between 13% and 32% in 2020. The fall in trade that we are now seeing is historically large, and it will be the steepest on record. Global growth projections have been revised down further to a 5% contraction, the sharpest fall in 100 years. The COVID-19 pandemic has provoked the deepest recession of our lifetime, and many of our most important industries have been victims of the most severe global recession in a century, a COVID-fueled collapse for which no nation was prepared. Honourable Ministers, Director General Azevedo's departure comes at a critical time for the organization and the global trading system. A long-running criticism of the WTO is that decisions are often taken by a handful of powerful nations, then presented to other members as a fait accompli. The incoming DG may not be able to remove power politics from the WTO, but they can change how debates and negotiations are structured, starting by giving voice and recognition and equal platform to small island developing states of the Pacific. As trade and power rivalry groups amongst bigger nations, the next DG will need to work hard to ensure that the voices of smaller players continue to be heard while keeping discussions productive. There is broad consensus that the WTO needs reform, but no consensus on what these reforms should actually look like. And today we'll have an opportunity to interact with the candidates to learn how they aim to advance the WTO reform debate, demand leaders' attention, broker important deals such as the agreement on fisheries subsidies, and the successful candidate should be able to galvanize efforts towards finding an inclusive and balanced way forward and offering a positive narrative for the organization's future role. Honorable Ministers, an effective DG must combine technical knowledge with creativity, leadership, and political judgment. They must have boundless energy and near infinite patience. They must be seen as a fair and honest broker, trusted by all 164 member countries without favoring any particular one. And most importantly, they must have ambition and vision complemented by the humility to maximize the limits of their influence. It is very clear that we need comprehensive reform processes to align the multilateral trading system with the realities of the 21st century commerce. If the job was tough in normal times, at present it is even tougher. Nonetheless, the new DG will have the opportunity to make a big difference. New issues such as e-commerce, MSMEs, climate change, including the remaining Doha development agenda issues, must be tackled as a matter of urgency in order to realize progress. It is equally important that the genuine developing economies are accorded protection and are in need of a strong, effective, and functioning multilateral trading system which recognizes special and differential treatment and development objectives. Honorable Ministers and Representatives, it is an opportune time for the Pacific region to become more vocal and visible in our approach to show that our votes matter. We have more to contribute than just making up the numbers in WTO. A strong Pacific trading bloc equals a strong multilateral trading system and a strong WTO. For this session, I encourage frank and constructive discussions with the candidates, but strictly adhering to the time limits. The Secretariat has prepared some framing questions which only set the scene and provide a guidance for interactions with the candidates. You are welcome to address specific questions to each candidate if you deem necessary. I thank you. Minawalevu.